Hi, Dr. Woody. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you, albeit virtually, but still good to see and talk to you.
It's the new way of the world.
Totally, totally. Welcome to the new normal, I guess. Before we jump into our discussion, do you want to quickly introduce yourself so folks know who you are?
Sure. My name is Dr. Woody Woodward. I'm an organizational psychologist and also a clinical assistant professor of executive coaching at New York University in Manhattan, but I've self-exiled to Maryland, so that's where I'm coming at you today.
Great. And I am coming from you hunkered down in Irvington, New York, where we've all been in our homes trying to cope with the latest situations regarding COVID-19 and how it's impacted all of us. I know today we wanted to talk about the mental health aspect, something that is sort of near and dear to my heart, and and I know something that you're looking at really closely. One of the things you had mentioned to me the other day was this sort of issue around isolation and the impact of isolation on people's mental health, especially as they grapple with the crisis that's happening, as they grapple with the realities of work, and all the challenges associated with that. So talk to me a little bit about isolation and how people should be trying to cope with it, given that we might be stuck in this situation for quite some time.
Sure. Look, before this pandemic, roughly 25% of Americans worked from home in some way, shape, or form, whether it was part-time, full-time, or at home and maybe at a coffee shop or something like that. But when we moved to this whole kind of self shelter in place, stay at home environment, and when a lot of companies started sending their employees home, I think initially people had the fantasy of, oh, I'm working from home. The reality is you're not really working from home in the traditional sense. You're in home confinement, which is very different than working from home, because you're not only adapting to being alone and isolated by yourself, but for most of us, you're confined with your family. So in a lot of cases, maybe only one a spouse worked at home, one of the two, and maybe the other one went to a workplace or vice versa. So that's now you've got both of you at home. And on top of that, you have children who are no longer in daycare or in school. Schools across the country have closed for weeks now. So now you still have the same demand. You still have the same workload in a lot of ways. It depends, right, on the industry or the business that you're in. But on top of that, your capacity is greatly reduced because you're juggling childcare or maybe caring for an elder parent. You don't have the opportunity to touch and see your friends for that sort of water cooler talk or coffee shop talk. So it is a more confining experience. And one of the challenges that a lot of managers and leaders have to look at, whether they have people working at home or more distributed than ever before, or even for those who are furloughed or out of work and basically sheltering at home, you don't want them to lose that sense of belonging, because people start to get detached somewhat too, because they're missing that physical contact, that opportunity to interact in an organic way as opposed to a structured telephonic or video conference kind of way. I think all leaders and managers really have to pay attention to that and be deliberate about how you reach out to your team members, and as individual team members, how you reach out to your colleagues, to your friends, to your support group, because building that support in a very deliberate way will be critical to get you through the time.
Sorry, are there specific questions that leaders should be asking to try to better understand who is struggling with isolation? And well, let's start with that, and then we can talk about what the possible solutions might be.
So I've always been a big believer in coaching managers and leaders to get to know your people, get to know your teams. I get in trouble with HR people about this all the time because, personal boundaries and prying. Look, we're all humans and we all bring our whole selves, right, to work, into everything that we do. And right now, especially if you're doing a lot of video conferencing or Zoom calls like what we're doing, you're actually going to get a lot of interesting insights into people's home lives. Like, for example, when my 3-year-old came running into my last meeting and interrupted me and tried to climb on my lap, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, look, that's your son. I've never seen your son. I moved to various different rooms in my house because of juggling where he's going, where my wife is going, and where I need to work. So they see parts of your house, right? So you get these unique insights and glimpses into people. I think cherish them, have fun with them. But ask, what is your situation? What's your schedule look like right now? How can I work around it? How do I need to be accommodating? What are good times for you? Are you juggling kids? Are they home? Are you juggling parents? Where are you staying? We've done this as a faculty group at NYU. Also, I've done this with my students because we moved remote a few weeks ago, all of our courses. So I spent just the first hour finding out, how are you doing? How are you managing? What are your concerns? How can we as a group pool resources to help you out and accommodate you? Because one of the challenges my wife and I had was juggling our schedules. So every morning we do a check-in, and the place that we're staying at, we don't even have a printer. So what I did was I took a piece of paper out, I drew a daily schedule, and we, in the morning, every time we block off when I'm on the phone and she has our son, and when she's on the phone and I have our son, and when he's at nap, and we can hopefully get things done. So you got to make these accommodations, but you don't know if you don't ask. And I think we're in unprecedented times. It's okay to get a little personal. It's okay to try to get to know your folks and empathize the best that you can and work around some of these obstacles that they have at home.
I wrote an article the other day in which I sort of talked about the need, I believe the need to get professional communicators like myself aligned and partnered with psychologists like you, who bring two very different sets of expertise to the table that are certainly complementary, but really needed now more than ever. Because as a professional communicator, if I'm advising a leader on how to communicate, I don't understand the mental health angle of it. I mean, I can speak from my own experience, but I'm not a professional, right? I am not a mental health expert. So I need the counsel. I think folks like me in the communications business needs the counsel of folks like you to bring those two worlds together. So as a leader, if you're communicating and you're not a mental health expert, how can you start to think like one or be advised by one so that you're not making the situation worse by creating even more anxiety among the people that you're trying to communicate with? What are your thoughts about that? Is that like way too far out there at this point, or do you think that's sort of the reality moving forward?
So I can't speak from the therapeutic side. I'm not a therapist. I'm an organizational psychologist. But from my perspective as an executive coach and trained in the field of psychology, one of the things that I try to make sure I tap into is how people are organizing, articulating, and presenting their thoughts, right, to others, how they present themselves and how they may be taken by others. Put yourselves in the shoes of those that you're talking to and understand how different people will take the same message very differently. Context matters. Look, everybody is under a unique and new kind of strain or stress that they're not used to. You have to take that into account. I think when you're speaking to individuals or to your team as a leader, first and foremost, you need to be candid and calm. Candid in that you need to be transparent. You need to lay out what you know and what your plans are, right? Even if those plans aren't great, even if they're evolving day by day, you need to try to help instill some sense of certainty in a time of constant evolving uncertainty in a way that's just unprecedented. Like, uncertainty is very stressful. Leaders need to create some sense of certainty. On the other side, calm, because the individuals that work with you and work for you, they will take emotional cues from you. And so if you're unraveling, if you're feeling nervous or you're erratic and not organized in how you're communicating, it signals to them to do the same, right? And that's why I think when you're talking to a communications professional like yourself, it's organize your thinking, be prepared, right? Be ready so that you can calm yourself and be ready to deliver the message that you need to deliver and be that rock in these rough waters that they need to see. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and I think at the very least, every leader today now really does have to put mental health and mental wellness at the forefront of not just how they communicate, but their thinking and the decisions they're making that are impacting people's lives. So certainly, just one of the many ways that our lives, both professionally and personally, are changing as a result of the coronavirus. So Woody, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'd love to have you back on. Unfortunately, from what I read and hear, we're going to be in this work from home scenario for quite some time. So as you experience different things and hear different things from the leaders you're speaking to, I'd love to do this again and see what's changed.
Absolutely, because things are going to continue to change, and we're all going to struggle to adjust, but we have no option.
Absolutely. Woody, I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.